Okay, I'm going to go ahead and apologize ahead of time because I know this is going to be a long video because I try to condense it into two parts of the notes into one. And unfortunately, there is a lot of verbiage. Okay, so I'm going to go fast through the video, but feel free to pause at any time because a lot of it is just computations and you should be able to follow along with it. Okay, unfortunately, I do need all these examples in the video, so I'm going to stop talking. We're just going to go ahead and jump in. The quadratic formula says when given a quadratic in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, notice that it is equal to 0. Notice that it's in standard form and that it equals 0. We can determine the number of solutions to the equation by using the formula x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. The thing underneath the radical, that stuff in red, is called the discriminant, and that allows us to know how many solutions there are. And we're going to go ahead and kind of generalize it as we move along, okay? But they will be asking you homeworks they will be asking you questions on the homework as to what the discriminant is, so you need to know where to find it, all right? It says use the quadratic formula to find the discriminant, the number of types of solutions, and the solutions that satisfy the equation. So I'm just going to jump in, get started. There's some problems that you could actually solve by factoring. I'm not going to do that today because I want to push the quadratic formula. Okay, so could you solve this by factoring? Yes, but I want to show the formula in all its glory, so we're going to go that. Here it's in standard form, so I want you to notice that your A value is 1, your B value is -4, and your C value is -12. Hopefully that's pretty straightforward because it's the number in front of the x squared is your A, the number in front of the x is your B, and then the one that doesn't have an x, that's going to be your C value. All right, I'm going to start by writing on the formula just because I always do it. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You're saying, how are you saying that formula so fast? Guys, I've been doing this for at least 25 years with that formula. It is a very popular formula. We're going to go ahead and start substituting our values. So let's see, this is going to be equal to, when I say negative b, I'm going to write negative parentheses. I want you to notice that your b value is -4. So here, inside the parentheses, that's what I'm going to write my b value. It's going to be -4. Hopefully you understand why there's two negatives there. The first one is because the negative is the negative, and then the b value is the -4. So I have to write two negatives there. It is super important in this problem. Plus or minus the square root of b squared. I'm going to put this in parentheses. Extremely important you put that in parentheses when you use your calculator. That's going to be a -4 squared minus 4 times my a value is 1. My c value is -12 all over 2 times my a value, which is 1. All right, so a lot of quick math here. -4 becomes +4. Plus or minus the square root of, I'm going to do this part first. That's -4 squared, which means -4 times -4. That's a +16. And then what I like to do is I like to look at these three terms here and just count negatives, right? I see that there's two negatives, and I know that a negative makes a positive. So I don't even know what the answer it is. I just know I'm going to be adding that number, whatever the heck it is, all right? So it's going to be adding something. What am I going to be adding? Well, now I can just focus on the numbers. 4 times 1 is 4 times 12 is 48. And so I get to write this as plus 48 divided by just 2. This is equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 plus 48 ends up being 64 divided by 2. And oh, look at that. I know the square root of 64. The square root of 64 is just 8. So this is 4 plus or minus 8 divided by 2. Now here is where we're going to split this up into two problems because I have the problem going through the top where it says 4 plus 8, and I got the problem going through the bottom where it says 4 minus 8. So I'm going to do the top one first. I'm going to write this as 4 plus 8 divided by 2. And the other one, I'm going to go through the bottom, and I'm going to write it as 4 minus 8 divided by 2. 4 plus 8, that's a 12 divided by 2, which ends up being 6. 4 minus 8 is a -4 divided by 2. That ends up being -2. So guys, those are my two answers right there. X equals 6 and X equals -2. All right. Let's go backtrack a little bit. They asked you for the discriminant. Remember, we said that the discriminant was the number underneath the radical. So whatever ended up being in here underneath the radical, that's going to be your discriminant. Let me go ahead and highlight it. In this case, my discriminant is going to be that number at the very end, that 64. not the square root of 64, just the 64. So here's what I'm going to write. I'm going to say discriminant is equal to 64, which is positive. Therefore, remember those three dots means therefore, we get two real solutions. When you get a positive discriminant, in this case the 64 is positive, you're going to end up with two real solutions, and that's exactly what I ended up with. I ended up with x equals 6 and x equals -2. Those are both real solutions. Just incidentally, let's go ahead and go over the other ones. If you have a negative underneath the radical, before we used to say, well, oh, if it's a negative, then there's no real solutions, and that's true. But remember, no real solutions means you have two imaginary solutions. And that's new, okay? So I want you to understand that when you have no real solutions, that really means that you have two imaginary solutions that include the I. And then if your discriminant is 0, we say that that's neutral, and in that case, you're going to get a double root. You only get one real solution, but it's a double root, and you'll see exactly what I mean as we move along. All right, that's done with the first one. You see how long that took? Yeah, these are going to be a little bit long, so I'm going to go a little bit faster on this one. The one thing I want you to notice about this one, why we put this one in here in particular, is because it's not in standard form. It needs to be in standard form. It needs to equal 0. So it needs to be in order, and it needs to equal 0. So I need to move this, and I need to move this. I'm going to do both of those at the same time by subtracting y from each side and subtracting 15 from each side. When I do these cancel, I'm left with equals 0. I said I was going to change the size of this because it's way too, the line weight is way too thick, and now I can't do it. It's not going to let me. It's not going to let me. It's not going to let me. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. No, it's not let. Oh, yeah, I found it. I found it. All right. Sorry, my line weight was way too heavy, and so this was making it the line's way too thick. So this is going to be 6y squared minus y minus 15. Just makes it a little bit clearer to see. It's not as thick. Okay, now that it's in standard form, I know that my a is equal to 6, my b is equal to -1, my c is equal to -15. This is why it was so important that you switch them over to the other side, because it does change your a, b, and c values, okay? So we're going to write the formula. Remember that formula is x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I get to write that x is equal to negative parentheses. My b value is -1 plus or minus the square root of, remember you write this in parentheses, -1 squared minus 4 times a times c. My a is 6 and my c is -15. All over 2 times a, but this time my a is 6. All right, we're going to do some quick math. Let's see, -1, that's a +1, plus or minus the square root of -1 squared, that's -1 times -1, that's a +1. Here, I count negatives, so I see that there's two negatives. I know that a negative makes a positive, so I know I'm going to be adding. Now I just got to worry about the number, right? So let's see. 4 times 6 is 24. 24 times 15. Oh, I believe that's 360. And this is going to be over 12. All right, I believe that this is 1 plus or minus the square root of 361 over 12. And if I remember correctly, the square root of 361 is a nice number. So let me go ahead and check that right now on my calculator. For this example, for these examples, guys, we are using the calculator because the numbers do get kind of big. And the answer is 19. So here's why we chose this problem. This is going to split into two different problems. It's going to be 1 plus 19 over 12 and 1 minus 19 over 12. That's going to be 20 over 12, which is a fraction. Who cares? We simplify that fraction. That's 5 over 3 is one of my answers. And that's a -18 over 12. And if I simplify that by 6, I get -3 over 2 is my other answer. Let's backtrack a little bit. What is my discriminant? My discriminant was the number underneath the radical when it was all simplified. So I'm going to say that the discriminant is equal to 361, which is also positive. Therefore, I should get two real solutions, which is exactly what happened. I got two real solutions. They were fractions, but who cares? Those are the two solutions. It's 5/3 and -3/2. I am going to go even faster on this one. We're just going to jam. It's already in standard form. A equals 1, B equals -4, C equals 5. All right, what do we have? Let's see. This is going to be x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Guys, I want you to notice I've been doing this for years. And even though I've been doing it for years, I always write the formula first. If I'm writing the formula first, I am expecting you to write the formula first. Because, I mean, not to be mean, but I don't think your math skills are better than mine just yet. Then if I'm doing it, then you better be doing it too, okay? All right, so all I did was I substituted the values. This is going to be a +4 plus or minus the square root of -4 squared. That's a 16 here. I want you to notice how many negatives you have. You only have one negative. Therefore, I'm going to write it as a negative. And then I just multiply. 4 times 1 is 4 times 5 is 20 divided by 2. That's equal to 4 plus or minus the square root of -4 divided by 2. Do you know the square root of -4? The answer is yes, because we already covered how to take square roots of negatives. I know the square root of 4 is 2. That means the square root of -4 should be 2i. This is going to be 4 plus or minus 2i divided by 2. Now, we're dealing with stuff that's imaginary. I cannot combine the 4 plus the 2i. So I'm going to split this. And you're going to hate the way I split it, but I don't care. I'm going to do it anyways, just because I want you to see where everything is coming from. This is going to be 4 plus 2i divided by 2. And 4 plus 2i, nope, 4 minus 2i divided by 2. You see how this is saying, hey, take all of this and divide it by 2? That means the 4 is being divided by 2, and the 2i is being divided by 2. I'm going to split it up again. This is the same thing as saying 4 divided by 2 plus 2i divided by 2. We're dividing each one by 2. Okay? And 4 divided by 2 minus 2i divided by 2. Why am I writing it like this? I think it's easier to see that this is just 4 divided by 2, which is just 2 plus, and I have this 2 on the top and the 2 on the bottom. These 2's are going to cancel, and you're left with just I. And same thing here, 4 divided by 2 is just 2. And then these 2's are going to cancel, and I'm left with just minus I. Let's go ahead and go back and answer our questions. What is my discriminant? My discriminant is a number underneath a radical, which in this case is -4. So I'm going to say the discriminant is equal to -4, which is negative. Therefore, you have two, we can say imaginary solutions, that's okay. I'm going to write two complex solutions. A complex number is just a number that involves I. So you can call them imaginary solutions, you can call them complex solutions, they mean the exact same thing, okay? All right, that takes care of the front side. I said that this was going to be a long video, guys. I meant it. We got 2 more problems in the back. I didn't want to have the 2 problems in the back, but I was like, no, they're going to run into these issues, so let me go ahead and address them now. I'm going to go even faster than before. This is already in standard form. I write A is equal to 9, B is equal to -6, C is equal to 0. We're going to go ahead and run through really quick. Let's see, that's -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Hopefully that formula is starting to stick in your heads. That's a -6 plus or minus the square root of -6 squared minus 4 times 9 times 0 all over 2 times 9. Again, if you need to press pause in the video, that's fine. I'm just going to go ahead and keep going just so that the video is not super long. That's a 36 on the inside of the radical. And then I only see one negative, so I'm going to write minus, and then 4 times 9 times 0, that's 0, all over 18, which is 6 plus or minus the square root of 36, all over 18. Wow, I feel like I did something wrong. I sure did. That's what happens when you try to go too fast. Hopefully you guys caught it before I did, and you're going, wait a minute, Mr. Luchigo, why did you put a 0 there? That should have been a 1. 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 This should have been a 1. This should have been 36. And now, inside the radical, we have a 0, because 36 minus 36 is 0. Do you know the square root of 0? I do. It's 0. So this is going to be 6 plus or minus 0 over 18. Some of you guys are going to recognize that you don't need the plus or minus 0 because it's just going to be 6. But I'm going to split it up anyways, just so you can really see what's happening. That's going to be a 6 plus 0 divided by 18. That's going to be a 6 minus 0 divided by 18. That's a 6 divided by 18 and a 6 divided by 18, which makes this x equals 1/3 and x equals 1/3. What was our discriminant? Our discriminant was 0. Which means 0 is not positive and it is not negative. It is neutral. And whenever you get a neutral number, which would be 0 in the denominator, then that means you get one real solution. And just for your reference, we call this a double root because you get the answer twice. So when I see that x equals 1/3 and x equals 1/3, I'm saying the same thing. Really, I could just say like, oh, x equals 1/3. That's it, right? You only got one solution out of it, is 1/3, but you got a double solution. It's like you got it twice, all right? Okay. Last one, guys. This was supposed to be a you try, so go ahead and press pause on the video. I want you to try getting this done. I'm going to assume you already did that. I'm going to swing that one to the other side just because I think it's easier and say that 0 is equal to 3q squared plus 4q minus 1. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, where my a is equal to 3, my b is equal to 4, my c is equal to negative 1. I get x is equal to negative parentheses, my b value is 4, plus or minus the square root of parentheses 4 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is negative 1, all over 2 times 3. That's a negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16. I see two negatives, so that's going to be a plus 12 over 6. Negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 28 all over 6. All right. Hey, at this point, if you got this far, wonderful. However, this problem is extremely tricky because the square root of 28 is not simplified, and you really should simplify your radicals if you can. Do I know the square root of 28? No, but I do know that if I break down 28, that breaks down into 4 times 7, which breaks down into 2 times 2. And as soon as I did this, I'm sure some of you guys are moaning at yourselves going, oh, no, you got to do that. And I'm going to say, absolutely. 2s are the ones that go to the party. The 7 has to stay home. So this becomes 2 square root of 7. I get to write this as negative 4 plus or minus 2 square root of 7 over 6. If you don't understand what just happened there, you got to look at the simplifying radicals video that I posted up, I want to say about 2-3 days ago. Okay. All right. What do we do? Are we stuck? Nope. We're going to simplify this by splitting it up. I'm going to split it up twice. So first I'm going to write negative 4 plus 2 rad 7 over 6 and negative 4 minus 2 rad 7 over 6. Sometimes the answers will be written like that. Sometimes they'll ask you to simplify it. And so I'm going to go ahead and simplify it. That's negative 4 over 6 plus 2 rad 7 over 6 and negative 4 over 6 minus 2 rad 7 over 6, just like I did in the last problem. Why am I doing that? Because it's easier to see that this is just negative 2/3 plus And then the 2 and the 6 simplify by 2, and this becomes 1 square root of, I'm not going to write 1 square root of 7, I'm just going to write square root of 7 over 3. Same thing here, that's going to be negative 2/3 minus, this cancels, or it simplifies, this becomes square root of 7 over 3. What's your discriminant? Your discriminant is positive 28. That's positive, which means 2 real solutions. Oh my goodness, we finished the notes. Hopefully you don't have any questions. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.